It's a reassessment year for real estate taxes in Beaufort County, and we're here today to talk to you about what you need to know, when this is going to happen, and what you can do to mitigate the rising taxes you might experience. Okay, Chris, it's a reassessment year in Beaufort County. The last time they did this is 2018, so they do this every 5 years. And this is sort of a value overlay. Basically, it covers the entire county. Isn't that right?
Yes.
Right, so basically, from a county-wide system, not just individual houses, that basically they're reevaluating, reassessing all property in Beaufort County. So today we want to talk about mainly the residential side and what that implication is, as people should be expecting that for 2023, your paid in arrears tax bill, what's that going to look like? And we know one thing, values have gone up. So let's talk about the timeline. What can people expect to hear from the county, and what are they going to get?
Well, we expect to hear the assessment notices to come out sometime in the fall, maybe the early to late fall. We're not sure exactly when that's going to happen, but that's going to hit. And so it's really important to get ahead of that and to be prepared for it.
Right. So the county sends this out. You got to imagine right here, we're in early May. This whole crew is busy, right? We're talking about the whole county, hundreds of thousands of properties that they're reassessing, and they got to send out a notice that says, guess what? Your property's at 123 Main Street. This is what we think your new assessor's value is on the property. That's what they're going to get.
Right. And they're tracking property characteristics for over 130,000 properties.
Right. So that's a whole other thing, right? And we'd have to kind of delve in, and we've got a guide about how to understand exactly how they go through that process. But for the purpose of today's message, we want to give a sense of what people can expect and then what that process might be for them. So they get this new notice of assessment, right? That's going to happen in the fall, we're told. We just don't know when that's going to be. When you open that letter up and you're saying, oh my goodness, we know one thing, values have gone up since 2018. We know that categorically. So we can expect that pretty much everybody's assessed value, or the market value, if you will, has gone up. Let's talk about what they're going to see on that message and how they can interpret that.
Well, they're going to see a value that the county assesses based on December 31st of 2022. Right. And so when they get that, they get their established market value, and the county has multiple ways of coming up with that. They do a cost approach, they do a sales comparison approach, and things like that. They're looking at transactions, arm's length transactions in the area.
But nobody's knocking on anybody's door and saying, let me come into your house.
They're not.
They're not sending their appraiser team to come out and do that. This is a mass appraisal that's done through tons of data that they've accumulated to try to get to the best fair market value that they think that property is.
That's right. And so when you open that up, if there's a value that you know your property better than anybody. You know if you fixed it up. You know what you've done to it. You know the size of it. The county might have some incorrect information, so you want to look at it really closely. But you only have 90 days to file a written appeal to Beaufort County if you feel like there is something wrong with that assessment.
So let's go back to that. Okay. So you look at it and you say, whoa, there's no way. I mean, I don't know anybody. I mean, everybody proudly wants their property to be worth the highest dollar amount, but I don't know anybody that loves the idea of spending more tax dollars, right? And so they want to have, I think, and the county wants to have it be fair. Everything is intended to be fair. Your fair market value, your fair share of the tax base, et cetera. We all understand that. So let's just say you get that situation where you're opening that up and an assessor says, we believe this is your new market value or assessor's value on the property. And you say, whoa, there's no way it's worth that. What does somebody go through? Like, what's the process on that appeal, this written appeal? Who can do that?
Okay.
And what does that entail? Like, so you write a letter and you say, I disagree, or what do you need to?
They need supportive documentation. It's really important. And we also need to make sure that folks realize that the supportive documentation, it has to be up to December 31st of 2022. These things are coming out in the fall of 2023. Your next door neighbor might have sold in the fall of 2023. Right? But that's irrelevant. They won't look at it. And that's what hangs a lot of people up in these reassessment years, because they're looking at what's recently happened.
Right.
But they need to look at no later than what's happened leading up to December 31st
of 2022. I get that. You got to have a hard data stop point, right? So I get that. So the hard data stop point is at the tail end of last year. Yeah. That's it. And so whatever happened up into December 31 of 2022, you can use that data. Anything forward from that, as you say, is irrelevant. And I totally get that. So that's a little confused. So you got that. So what is relevant data? So if somebody says, I want to appeal, what are they looking for? Like they're looking for comps, they're looking for things that sold down the street?
They're looking for arm's length transactions. Okay. So they're looking for legitimate buy-sell transactions. Okay, that's what an arm's length transaction is.
Meaning not to your cousin or your mom or dad or anything like that. So it's a market transaction.
That's right. And not a distressed sale.
Right.
I think back before, there were some distressed sales, some foreclosures, things like that. They kind of weed those out as well.
Because that might pull it down unfairly.
Right. So they're doing that. And then as far as they're also looking at things like cost approach. So they're establishing a land value, and they're pulling data from Marshall and Swift and things like that. And putting all this together and then sending that off for review to make sure that they're in line with kind of expectations of where the value should be.
So if you decide you think maybe that value is not right, you do this appeal process. That's in writing. Who can do that? Does the homeowner have to do this? Is there anybody that can represent them in doing that?
There's only a few people that can do it. Okay. The taxpayer themselves can do it. They can file the appeal straight to the county.
Right.
A family member of the taxpayer can do it. Okay. As long as they're not being paid. Okay, that's fair. Their CPA can do it.
Okay,
an IRS agent of some sort could do it, or a local appraiser, a certified residential appraiser can do it. So those are the folks that can actually file an appeal on behalf of a taxpayer. Now we can help by preparing information or getting data or getting comps if somebody wants to do it on their own and just needs some assistance, because we have full access to the MLS. We know what to look for. We know what neighborhood parameters are. We know what's relevant and what's not relevant. So we can put together some information that can help with that process.
So if somebody wanted to get really involved, they could hire an appraiser. We could give them the names of local appraisers that we have a lot of trust and respect for. If somebody says, listen, I don't need to go that far, but I need to know what the data was over the last 6 months, let's say of 2022, leading up to that 12/31 date. Can you tell me all the 3-bedroom homes with 2,000 square feet on a golf course view that sold in my neighborhood? Can you run that for me? Your answer is yeah. We can pull that data.
That's right. The other thing that we can also do is dig a little deeper than the assessor's information going in.
Right.
They pull all the same sales information, but you and I both know that when we call and verify sales, we learn things about sales. We learn that something sold high because they just redone everything inside.
Right.
We learn that something sold low because they found termites. So things like that, having that extra layer of information that you can present with the data that the assessor's office does not have.
Because they didn't knock on the door and go in the house, right?
That's the aha moment, and that's the kind of information that can really change.
Okay,
picture.
So if you get so you're pulling MLS listings and that sort of thing, doing that research, even printing those off is fair game, and then you can read the remarks and say, "Wow, this thing sounds like it was banged up, everything was done, etc." That's a much nicer house than my house. I love my house, but I didn't do all that work to it in recent history, right? So that kind of data becomes relevant and could be fodder for the appeal process if somebody wants to appeal.
Right, and once you do the appeal, once you send off that written appeal, you have to wait for them to decide. So you're waiting for a letter of determination, a notice of determination on what they say. That while that appeal process is happening, you're not exempt from paying anything. Okay, right. You have to pay something.
Because you effectively, as you get the notice for the assessed value, you're effectively getting your tax bill too, right? They're basically saying this is what your tax is structured to be.
Yeah, you have to pay something. So to avoid, if you know that you're not going to pay the full tax bill, or you don't think you're going to have to pay the full tax bill, you need to file another written notice that says, I intend to pay between 80 and 99% of my tax bill while this appeal process is ongoing.
Got it.
Now that will keep you from having to pay penalties should they determine that you paid deficient amount.
Right. So you get this balance, right? While this appeal process is coming, and that's that's 12/31/2023. You basically have to make that determination, right? To declare to the county, are you going to pay 100% of this, or are you going to pay something under it because the appeal hasn't been finished?
That's right. And then if you get a notice of determination back and it's not in your favor, you still disagree, you can repeat the process.
Right.
You have to do that within 30 days. Right. Now it goes down to 30 days. And this can go back and forth until you come to terms with the assessor.
And my general sense of it is, and I always think it's like the tax assessor versus the homeowner, and it's this constant battle. The reality is that within the county, the goal is to always have your assessed value, the assessor's value of your property, be at market value. whatever that is, whether that drops down or whether that rises up. And then you get every 5 years this comes about, and this now is coming into people's living room. Like this is becoming the topic of conversation here. And so what we're encouraging people is we've got a PDF that the county has put together for us to share that's got a lot of frequently asked questions and additional information on this process. And we're encouraging people to get ready for this, get ahead of it. Share this video with a friend, a neighbor, somebody else that owns property in Beaufort County. Continue to lean on us as a resource and make sure that you're kind of geared up to make this a fair and equitable process with the county, right?
Yeah, right. I agree.
Okay. Well, guys, we appreciate your interest as always. And by the way, if you found this to be helpful on any of the other video content we're putting together here at Collins Group Realty, please subscribe to our channel. Ask a friend to subscribe to our channel. And as always, we're really glad to be here to be of assistance to you.